This is Mike Kennigan, San Jacinto College, Introduction to Visual Basic, ITSE 1331. Now I'm getting ready to start explaining how we can pass information to our subs and have them return information. This is called parameter passing, and we can do this with functions and we can do this with procedures. But let's just take a problem of calculating a paycheck for somebody without subs and procedures, so we can look at the base code before we look at passing parameters. So let me run this program here so you can see what it does. So in this program I can say I worked 60 hours this week for $30 an hour, and I'm going to hit the payroll button. So it says my regular pay is $1,200. For all the hours I worked above 40, I got time and a half, so that's $900. Total pay $2,100. Now, this is the exit button, the get out of here button, and the calc with nested ifs is more complex version of the code. I think this code's a little cleaner. Let's open up payroll and see what's going on. So I've got two inputs, so I had to dim two variables as decimal to hold what was coming in from the text boxes, and then I'm going to calculate regular pay, overtime pay, and grand total pay. So two inputs, three outputs, I have to dim three variables. Once again, two inputs, three outputs, I had to dim five variables altogether. So the first thing I'm going to do in this code is a series of try catches to convert the information from the text boxes, the .text property. Remember, that's a string. We have to decimal parse it into a decimal, and then I'm going to put it in dec hours. Now I have it in numeric format. I can do math with it. If the user made a typo, what's going to happen in the catch? We're going to do a message box to tell them they made an error. We're going to put the cursor back in the text box that had the error with .focus. Then we're going to say exit sub, because there's no use continuing on. They made an error. They didn't type in hours. We can't do the math because we get gibberish. It'd be times 0. So we just say exit sub. So then I'm going to do the same try catch for this time pay rate and put it into dec rate. Now I'm going to do some validation checking. I'm going to look for certain errors. If the pay rate is less than $7.25 an hour, that's an error because it needs to be at least $7.25. Not $5.25, but $7.25 for minimum wage. Once again, we say exit sub. If they typed in hours less than 0, it's an error. If they typed in more than 168 per hours, it's an error, because there's only 168 hours in a week. Bucko. So there's my error checking. Then we get down to doing the math, okay? So what are we going to do? If hours is greater than 40, now that's got a D on it because 40 is a decimal. Okay, so it added that on to the back of it. So my regular pay is going to be 40 times dec rate. My overtime is going to be hours minus 40, which if I typed in 60 would be 20. So 20 times the pay rate, but it's not straight time. You get time and a half, so it's times 1.5 time and a half. So that's my overtime hours. Now else, that means they didn't work more than 40 hours. So they're just getting straight pay, which is hours times rate, and the overtime is going to be 0. Grand total pay for this one check, the total pay is going to be regular plus overtime, and then I've got to put it in the labels. Okay. Now, this is one set of error checking where I'm doing each error check separately. The other button is doing the error checking with nested ifs, and you can see how this gets really messy. I'm doing all my error checks, else I go on to the next error check, else I go on to the next error check, else I do my calculations and do my output, and then I got to have end if, end if, end if. So that's why I don't like nested ifs, because this code I think is a lot messier than if each error just does an exit sub. You don't have to nest them inside of each other. Anyway, our baseline code that we use to do the math is right here. And now we're going to move on to an example where we have a separate function to do the error checking and a separate function to do the math.